Chapter 11. How to Destroy a Kingdom. And whoso is not willing to lay down his life for my sake is not my disciple. Jesus D&C 103:28. I will not have a coward in my army. Gen. George S. Patton, Jr. In a war you must know all the strengths and the weaknesses of your enemy. But this is not all, you must have the courage to do something about it. Victory parades were never given for the weak, the timid, or the cowards in any war. Unfortunately, courage and sacrifice are not always found on the battlefield. Other methods, some not so honorable, are frequently used in dealing with the enemy, such as espionage, sabotage, spying, and other subversive activities. In building a strong and sturdy house, you must first understand the forces that could destroy it, so that you can prevent them, if possible. You should insulate it properly against cold and heat and leaks, try to protect it from fire, safeguard it against insects and rodents, use quality materials and workmanship so it doesn't collapse, and take precautions against thieves and robbers. So it is with building the kingdom of God. Every weakness, every frailty and every force that can come against the kingdom should be identified, analyzed, and prepared for. We need to learn not only how the devil built his kingdom, but also how he can destroy God's kingdom. We don't have a comprehensive written record that gives us the details of that war in heaven. We can't find anyone who was there that remembers all about it, nor do we have knowledge of any revelation telling exactly how the devil achieved his remarkable success. We wonder what principles he practiced and what operations he used. Since we lack this information, we need to study how his government operates and what orders his employees follow. In the criminal world, the police say look for the motive. In the business world, it is follow the money. And in the battle of these opposing two kingdoms, we say discern the temptation. A policeman can track down a criminal by studying his MO or method of operation. Listed below are 10 methods of operation used by the devil. If we identify them in advance, we should be better able to recognize them if and when they appear in our individual lives. 1. Spying. 2. Sedition, treason, conspiracy. 3. Flattery and praise. 4. Bribery. 5. False promises. 6. Entrapment. 7. Propaganda. 8. Appealing to the carnal nature. 9. Infiltration. 10. Payoffs and blackmail. 1. Spying. Spies are people trained and hired specifically for gathering information about an enemy. They are different from double agents, traitors, or innocent victims. Example, probably no one, at least no other woman, has even gained the reputation for success as a spy as has Madame Mata Hari. She was employed by the Germans during World War I and did so well that they called her a super spy. The damage she caused the Allied forces has never been fully realized. Mata Hari, real name Marguerite Gertrude Zell, 1876 to 1917, dancer on the French stage who was convicted as a German spy in World War I, was born in Leeuwarden, the Netherlands, and was married at the age of 18 to Captain Campbell MacLeod of the Dutch colonial army. She spent most of her married life in Java, where she studied the native dances. After her divorce in 1903, she went to Paris, where she became a vaudeville dancer acclaimed for her exotic oriental dances, and a famed courtesan. In 1907 she appears to have joined the German Secret Service, and to have been one of Germany's super spies during World War I, obtaining important secret military information from many Allied officers. She was eventually trapped by the French Secret Service, tried before a court-martial, and shot by a firing squad in Paris. American People Inc. 12271. 2. Sedition, treason, conspiracy. By definition, sedition means stirring up resistance or rebellion against the government or authority in power. This may be in the form of letters, pamphlets, books, and speeches, but still remaining within the authority of the legal system. It does not imply some overt act of violence against the authority, whereas treason does, involving acts of violence, betrayal and overthrow of the lawful government, and betrayal to an enemy. Conspiracy is when two or more people agree and plot to work together for the overthrow of a government. Example, Harry Dexter White, Harry Hopkins, and Alger Hiss were but 3 of Stalin's agents in the Roosevelt administration, who caused incalculable harm to America and the world. White held a number of key positions within the Treasury Department, including Assistant Secretary of the Treasury. He was the chief U.S. technical expert at the Bretton Woods Monetary Conference in 1945, and had a major hand in designing the disastrous International Monetary Fund and World Bank. As special assistant to President Franklin Roosevelt, Harry Hopkins dramatically changed the course of history by, among other things, providing the Soviets with everything they needed to make an atomic bomb. Alger Hiss, with the 80 furnished Stalin and the UN alone, proved he was worth more to the communists than 100 divisions. Conspiracy for Global Control, page 65. 3. Flattery and praise. One way to weaken an enemy is to make him feel greater than he really is. Pride is vanity, and vanity is a most destructive force. Men in high positions begin to love their authority, their power, and their control more than justice and service to others. The devil's program is to let men trust in themselves or in the arm of someone else. Let them believe that their authority, their power, and their decisions are honored by the Lord. Let them believe that everything they say is pure inspiration, and that their station is equal to that of former great prophets. Let them assume that their word is the Lord's. Encourage his arrogance, build up his ego, make him think that all who will not follow him are apostates and traitors. The prophet Joseph declared, "Beware of pride." We would say, beware of pride also, for well and truly hath the wise man said, that pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. And again, outward appearance is not always a criterion by which to judge our fellow man, but the lips betray the haughty and overbearing imaginations of the heart. By his words and his deeds, let him be judged. Flattery is also a deadly poison. A fanciful and flowery and heated imagination beware of ... How vain and trifling have been our spirits, our conferences, our councils, our meetings, our private as well as public conversations. TPJS, page 137. Example: probably no man in Mormon history came into the church with as many talents, abilities, and powers of persuasion as did John C. Bennett. His story is of a great man who experienced a great fall because of his passions and self-pride. Before Bennett joined with the saints, Joseph Smith warned him in a letter, "I have no doubt that you would be of great service to this community in practicing your profession, as well as those other abilities of which you are in possession. Though to devote your time and abilities in the cause of truth and a suffering people may not be the means of exalting you in the eyes of this generation, or securing you the riches of this world, yet by so doing, you may rely on the approval of Jehovah. THAT, blessing which maketh rich and added no sorrow. Therefore, my general invitation is, let all who will come and partake of the poverty of Nauvoo freely. I should be disposed to give you a special invitation to come as early as possible, believing you will be of great service to us. However, you must make your own arrangements according to your circumstances. Were it possible for you to come here this season to suffer affliction with the people of God, no one will be more pleased to give you a cordial welcome than myself." CHC 250. The account continues according to church history. Surely this was frank enough and ought to have dispelled from the doctor's mind all thoughts of winning worldly fame, or gratifying vain ambition, by linking his fortunes with those of the Church of Jesus Christ. The whole course of the prophet here outlined dealing with the advent of John the 100th. Bennett vindicates him and the church from any complicity with the subsequent wickedness and vileness of that man. Ibid. 250. 4. Bribery. It is important to know the strengths and most powerful weapons of the enemy. One of the best ways to obtain this information is to persuade or bribe some of those in the opposing camp to be traitors. This enables penetration into enemy borders in order to destroy ammunitions, guards, and eventually leaders themselves. Apostates and traitors are a most valuable asset, and they can be found among the following types of people. Inside agents are enemy officials whom we employ. Among the official class there are worthy men who have been deprived of office, others who have committed errors and have been punished. There are sycophants and minions who are covetous of wealth. There are those who wrongly remain long in lowly office, those who have not obtained responsible positions, and those whose sole desire is to take advantage of times of trouble, to extend the scope of their own abilities. There are those who are two-faced, changeable, and deceitful, and who are always sitting on the fence. As far as all such are concerned, you can secretly inquire after their welfare, reward them liberally with gold and silk, and so tie them to you. Then you may rely on them to seek out the real facts of the situation in their country, and to ascertain its plans directed against you. The Art of War, Sun Tzu, page 145. Example: Haman did not like the Jewish people, and he sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom. Esther 3:6. Therefore, he offered King Ahasuerus a bribe to kill them. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, There is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people, neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed. And I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have the charge of the business, to bring it into the king's treasuries. Esther 3:8-9. It was a price he could hardly turn down. In our money, it would have been over $5 million. However, the plot was discovered, and only by some very shrewd and miraculous events were the lives of these Israelites saved. 5. False promises. The devil delights in giving false hope, false promises and false prophecies. He torments his own servants with delusions and disappointment. He loves to see people frustrated and discouraged. If he can steal something of value from them, he enjoys their anguish and grief. He builds castles in the sky and then destroys them. He entices people to gamble and loves to see them suffer great losses. He promotes the doctrine of following a leader or some mortal with utmost confidence and blind obedience, especially religious leaders. How he laughs when people realize they were deceived. In such cases, both leaders and followers were deceived. He leads men carefully along, whispering to them that all is well. Then he is delighted when they discover they have been blinded and are devastated. His greatest triumph is watching people become completely complacent and secure with their religion, their government, and themselves, so that they refuse to search or investigate further, because it might create some doubt and disturb their comfort zone. These people expect life to be a sea of tranquility. They are like a baby with a pacifier in his mouth, comfort without tangible gain. They live their lives in a bubble of false security and false hope. Joseph Smith described such people when he said, "There are a great many wise men and women too in our midst who are too wise to be taught. Therefore they must die in their ignorance, and in the resurrection they will find their mistake. Many seal up the door of heaven by saying, 'So far God may reveal and I will believe.'" TPJS, page 309. Example. A good example of how the devil gives false promises is in the case of Korihor in the Book of Mormon. He went about teaching there was no God, and openly opposed all the teachings of God's disciples. He confronted Alma and said if he would give him a sign, then he would believe. So he was struck dumb, and Alma told him, "Behold, he has showed unto you a sign, and now will ye dispute more?" And Korihor put forth his hand and wrote, saying, "I know that I am dumb, for I cannot speak, and I know that nothing save it were the power of God could bring this upon me. Yea, and I also knew that there was a God. But behold, the devil hath deceived me, for he appeared unto me in the form of an angel, and said unto me, Go and reclaim this people, for they have all gone astray after an unknown God. And he said unto me, There is no God. Yea, and he taught me that which I should say. And I have taught his words, and I taught them because they were pleasing unto the carnal mind, and I taught them even until I had much success, insomuch that I verily believed that they were true. And for this cause I withstood the truth, even until I have brought this great curse upon me." And Korihor did go about from house to house, begging food for his support. And it came to pass that as he went forth among the people, yea, among a people who had separated themselves from the Nephites and called themselves Zoramites, being led by a man whose name was Zoram, and, as he went forth amongst them, behold, he was run upon and trodden down, even until he was dead. And thus we see the end of him who perverteth the ways of the Lord. And thus we see that the devil will not support his children at the last day, but doth speedily drag them down to hell. Alma 31:51-53, 58-60. 6. Entrapment. The devil will try to get you to break moral codes by promise or seduction. He'll persuade you to do something wrong, and then hold it over your head as blackmail. If he persuades you with one moral sin, he can then encourage you to do more. He's very good at sabotaging defenses, breaking down standards, and compromising your religion. He'll camouflage his objectives and appear not to be the cause of your downfall. A Chinese philosopher once said, "When a cat stands before a mouse hole, 10,000 mice will not venture out. But if the opposition hides and sets a trap, then the prey is easy to catch." Example. And it came to pass afterward, that Samson loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. And the lords of the Philistines came up unto her, and said unto her, Entice him, and see wherein his great strength lieth, and by what means we may prevail against him, that we may bind him to afflict him. And we will give thee every one of us 1,100 pieces of silver. And she said unto him, How canst thou say, I love thee, when thine heart is not with me? Thou hast mocked me these 3 times, and hast not told me wherein thy great strength lieth. Note, you would think that Samson would have figured out that the woman was planning an entrapment for him. He apparently was strong in his body, but not very strong in his mind. And it came to pass, when she pressed him daily with her words, and urged him, so that his soul was vexed unto death, that he told her all his heart, and said unto her, There hath not come a razor upon mine head, for I have been a Nazarite unto God from my mother's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak, and be like any other man. She called to the lords of the Philistines, saying, Come up this once, for he hath shewed me all his heart. Then the lords of the Philistines came up unto her, and brought money in their hand. And she made him Samson sleep upon her knees, and she called for a man, and she caused him to shave off the 7 locks of his head, and she began to afflict him, and his strength went from him. And she said, The Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he awoke out of his sleep, and said, I will go out as at other times before, and shake myself. And he wist not that the Lord was departed from him. Judges 16:4-5, 15-20. 7. Propaganda. The purpose of propaganda is to mislead and misinform. It has been stated that all wars are built on deception. You advertise that your strengths are greater, and the enemies are weaker than they really are. You start false rumors, give misinformation, and subvert the news media. Propaganda was used extensively by the Nazis and the Communists. They even had their own people believing their lies, and certainly buffaloed America and our allies. We were sending the Russians foreign aid, while they were making war machines to use against us. They trapped us into an extremely expensive stalemate war in both Korea and Vietnam. Example: John Swinton, the former chief of staff for the New York Times, was one of America's best-loved newspapermen. Called by his peers, the dean of his profession, John was asked in 1953 to give a toast before the New York Press Club, and in so doing made a monumentally important and revealing statement. He is quoted as follows: There is no such thing, at this date of the world's history, in America, as an independent press. You know it and I know it. There is not one of you who dares to write your honest opinions, and if you did, you know beforehand that it would never appear in print. I am paid weekly for keeping my honest opinion out of the paper I am connected with. Others of you are paid similar salaries for similar things, and any of you who would be so foolish as to write honest opinions would be out on the streets looking for another job. If I allowed my honest opinions to appear in one issue of my paper, before 24 hours my occupation would be gone. The business of the journalists is to destroy the truth, to lie outright, to pervert, to vilify, to fawn at the feet of Mammon, and to sell his country and his race for his daily bread. You know it and I know it, and what folly is this toasting an independent press? We are the tools and vassals of rich men behind the scenes. We are the jumping jacks. They pull the strings and we dance. Our talents, our possibilities, and our lives are all the property of other men. We are intellectual prostitutes. Operation Vampire Killer 2000, P.O. Box 8712, Phoenix, Arizona, 85066. 8. Appealing to the carnal nature. Since all mankind have weaknesses, if identified, they can be used to advantage. A good example is recorded in the Book of Mormon about King Limhi. When he and his people were held captive by the Lamanites, he sent a present to the Lamanites of a tribute of wine, as he knew this was one of their weaknesses. Thus, Limhi and his people escaped by night, while the Lamanites were too drunk to notice. See Messiah 22:6-11. Regarding the weakness of immorality, Solomon was warned, Say unto wisdom, Thou art my sister, and call understanding thy kinswoman, that they may keep thee from the strange woman, from the stranger which flattereth with her words. Let not thine heart decline to her ways. Go not astray in her paths, for she hath cast down many wounded. Yea, many strong men have been slain by her. Proverbs 7:4-5, 25-26. Example: There is probably no story of immorality as notorious as the incident of David's adultery with Bathsheba, the wife of one of his officers. It was an unnatural and unbelievable situation, because it occurred before there was any kind of mutual friendship or love. It was without justification for a man of such valor, and for one who already had many wives. He was a man after God's own heart. Sam 13:14. One wonders how a man with such a strict moral code and such intelligence and faithfulness to God could possibly be overcome by adultery. It is a sad story. And it came to pass in an eventide, that David arose from off his bed, and walked upon the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman washing herself, and the woman was very beautiful to look upon. And David sent and inquired after the woman. And one said, Is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? And David sent messengers, and took her, and she came in unto him, and he lay with her, for she was purified from her uncleanness. And she returned unto her house. And the woman conceived, and sent and told David, and said, I am with child. 2 Sam 11:2-5. 9. Infiltration. Cover your tracks with camouflage. Do damage to the enemy from within, but leave no trace of what happened. Get your own agents into high positions in the enemy ranks. Persuade them to hire other agents in high offices. Get them to give orders for your benefit and pay off others to help. Example: this has happened in our own U.S. State Department. A Hungarian freedom fighter, named Otto Otepka, escaped the communist takeover of his country and came to America. He was hired by the State Department, and during a Senate investigation, he was called in and told that a communist had been employed in the State Department, and he should have checked his background. He responded that he did, but his superiors hired him anyway. He was asked if he knew any others that he had rejected, but that were hired anyway. He said yes. They asked him how many, and he responded that he would give them the answer the next day. When he came back, he said there had been 186 security risks hired over his objection. Some time later, none of the risks were fired, but Otto Otepka was. This is a classic example of infiltration by the enemy. 10. Payoffs and blackmail. In this case, the object is not necessarily to destroy all your enemies, but rather convert them by payoffs and blackmail. Corrupt the leading officials rather than the commoners. The importance of one person in high position can be worth many times more than the value of an average person. Anyone who joins up should be treated well, paid well, and given immediate positions of responsibility. Example: in the Cold War, two different soldiers were approached by communist spies, and their stories were almost identical. The Soviets asked for simple favors at first, such as getting a little map of the army barracks, for which they would pay them many thousands of dollars. It seemed very harmless, involving no apparent danger to military defense, and, actually, it was of no military value. They reasoned that the money would be a tremendous help to them in solving their financial problems. They agreed and sold a crude map. Then the communists came to them with another small project, and said they would pay many more thousands of dollars. It seemed almost too good to be true, and so they found the information and sold it to the enemy. They were extremely happy with all the money. Then came a request for something of more value to the enemy. They both balked and thought it was too dangerous, and didn't want to do it. But they were told that they had already gone too far, and that they would be reported to their superiors and end up in prison. Now they were being blackmailed and couldn't back out. Eventually, those two soldiers ended up causing over $100 billion damage to our defense system. Of course, our own government was so infiltrated by Reds that they each had to serve only 4 years in prison, with time off for good behavior. Conclusion: if all men were pillars of power against the forces of evil, this mortal battle with Satan would be easy, but all men are under the spell of the fall. All are human, all have sinned, and all come short of the glory of God. Even the prophets have their share of failings and weaknesses. No matter how much we repent or how hard we work for the Lord, we could never prove ourselves worthy to be in his presence. I say unto you that if ye should serve him who has created you from the beginning, and is preserving you from day to day, by lending you breath, that ye may live and move and do according to your own will, and even supporting you from one moment to another, I say, if ye should serve him with all your whole souls, yet ye would be unprofitable servants. Messiah 2:21.